Content warning. On this podcast, we discuss sensitive issues, including but not limited to swearing, tasteless jokes, mentions of drug use, and situations of a sexual nature. This podcast is not intended for children. Hello, everybody. Hi, Bam Bam.
Hi.
What are you all up to this week? That was long.
Welcome to BiblioWrecks, where we don't know how to begin our show.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Hey, Bam Bam.
Hey, Bugs.
How you doing this week?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by McDonald's, ibuprofen, and caffeine.
I wish I had more caffeine. I didn't have my second cup of coffee.
I've had too many energy drinks.
Well, what wrecked you this week?
Well, let me ask you, how do you feel about manipulative relationships and hurting people?
I try not to be part of those things. They can make for a good story so long as there's like a good recovery arc or somebody is like able to learn or grow. But yeah, I don't usually care for that kind of book.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about that.
Well, I've got bad news.
Oh, no.
This is a rare, very well-written book and well-executed story, but makes me feel spiritually bad.
So it's a bad vibes, but good execution?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I read this one like twice, and I still feel icky at the end.
Oh, no. Am I going to need a shower when we're done?
You might.
So what's the name of this book?
This book is called Dirty Liar by Marissa Finch.
I don't think I've read that author, but I'm not sure.
I'd never read her either, but she's apparently pretty good from my personal opinion.
Oh, okay.
Couple of warnings before we start. Number one, spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly. And also a warning for sexual violence and regular violence.
Like domestic violence kind of thing?
Yeah, but kind of worse, in my opinion.
Okay.
So, the story starts off. A woman is running through the forest, like on a hiking trail, with her German Shepherd named King.
Okay.
Yeah. And at this point in the story, it very clearly isn't naming the character.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's purposely like you're getting to know the character a little bit, but you never get a name throughout the entire first chapter.
Right. Okay.
Another thing the book does, it bounces back and forth between present and past. So this first part is the present.
Okay.
And it constantly bounces back and forth. I'm not going to do that for simplicity's sake.
Okay.
But sometimes it'll jump back and forth between present and 6 months before.
Will you not know who is doing things in the scenes when it jumps time? So, like, if you're jumping back in time, will you know who the people are? Or is it the time jump that's hidden?
No, it's at the beginning of every chapter, it tells you.
When. Okay.
Yeah.
Because some things, kind of like The Witcher,
they
jumped from time period to time period and
it
they don't
doesn't
tell you. And then it's a surprise.
Yeah. No, that's not a part of this.
Okay. Well, that's good because that makes it a little more straightforward.
Yeah, honestly, I think that kind of twist is a little cheap. Like, if done well, like with The Witcher, it's good, but it's a hard one to pull off.
Right.
Anyway, this character is like watching over her shoulder. She's like got the constant feeling that someone is like following her while she's on this hike.
Okay.
Has like no discernible actual clues, just vibes.
Okay. Is this a suspense novel?
Yeah, suspense thriller, I think is the genre. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's following her dog and going further down the trail when all of a sudden the dog just bolts off the trail.
Okay.
And she's like worried, and she's constantly thinking about worried about the dog and like thinking about the recent investigation, and it just kind of leaves it vague like that.
Okay.
So she takes off after the dog. Dog's running through the woods, and all of a sudden she falls in a hole.
Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm. So she gets to the bottom of the hole and notes that the hole is a square 8 by 8, 12 feet deep.
Like a basement?
Like a square hole someone dug in the woods.
Oh, like a trap.
Yeah, like she pretty early on notes that it looks man-made.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also another visceral thing that this book does, a lot of the injuries and stuff, it's a little graphic.
Okay.
Like at this point, she falls down the hole and like bites her tongue.
Ow.
Like almost in half.
And so it's like you're tasting blood, you're gagging, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like a visceral gut punch right out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes you feel bad for women. This whole entire book.
Well, I
in
mean,
general.
That can be good, depending.
Yeah.
If it improves your empathy, not if it just
I think it does do that. Yeah. So then there's a time jump. We go back to 6 months before, and you're not really sure if this is the same character because number one, they act so different.
Okay.
And that was my first impression upon reading it.
Okay.
So the 6 months before timeline, we learn that protagonist's name is Lily.
Okay.
And she has just gotten engaged to by her boyfriend, James, on a sudden proposal vacation.
Okay.
And James is very knowledgeable about Lily's dislikes and likes. Just gonna let the cat out of the bag. He's very controlling.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like happy with him?
She's happy for the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Like not a very forward thinking kind of relationship here.
Okay.
Yeah, James is a architect firm CEO. He's charming and into hardcore BDSM.
Is she?
Not initially.
Oh, dear.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just from these two initial chapters, you can tell that these are very different seeming people. Like the person 6 months before is like very confident and feels very savvy, while the person in the present situation is like almost a claustrophobic personality.
So you're brought into it wondering what happened that caused this personality change. Is it even the same person?
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's a pretty good out the gate then.
Yeah,
like
it is. Yeah, at this point, it would switch back to the present situation, but I'm just going to keep going with the 6 months before timeline.
Right.
Just so we can stay track on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
So after the proposal, Lily and James return home after their vacation, only to find a dead crow in their living room, dead for at least a few days.
Oh.
And that's something else.
But not a broken window.
Nope, no broken window.
So someone put it there. That's what you're supposed to think, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
But that's another through line between the 6 month situation and the present situation, is that both of them say, like, right off the bat that they hate birds.
Okay.
Like, the person in the present situation hates birds, and the 6 months ago, Lily hates birds.
Okay.
She is very worried, like, right away. There are no open windows in the apartments. The door was locked. She's certain that there's no way that they could have let a bird in on their way out of the apartment.
Right. You would have noticed that.
Yeah. So this thing has been in the apartment, like, dead for a few days. Like, been there long enough to have starved to death.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
How long were they gone?
Like, over a week.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess a crow would starve and die in a week.
Yeah. And right away, James becomes very demanding and rude. He asks for some gloves, and she grabs some from his closet. And he says, "Not my fucking good driving gloves," he snaps. "Work gloves, dish gloves, something." And, like, she's very clearly freaked out in this situation.
Right.
Yeah. So he picks up the bird and puts it in the trash bag and takes it out. She's cleaning up, like, all of the bird shit and everything else from the apartment. She's just wondering, like, almost like in a stupor, worried about how this bird got into the apartment. And she keeps trying to talk to James about it, but he won't, like, hear it.
He won't
really.
engage.
Yeah, he won't acknowledge that something might be up deeper than, oh, it's just a fluke.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are logical explanations, but if someone is truly afraid or
Yeah.
dislikes something like that, that would be really like triggering and upsetting.
Yeah. And, if, you had a understanding partner, they might empathize with that a little bit.
Right.
Instead of infantilizing you about your worries and anxieties and stuff. Anyway, and all the next day, she works at a ad agency firm, like works on, I guess like ad campaigns for like companies and stuff.
So like in a marketing department?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's honestly kind of vague. Like I kept forgetting what she did for work.
So it just doesn't really matter in the story?
Yeah, not really. And she's almost neglecting her work all the next day, worried about this bird and what it could mean, stuff like that, until Damien and Aurora, her coworkers, ask about her new ring. And she gets to talk about that, and she eventually just kind of forgets for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Better supportive coworkers than your future spouse.
Yeah, like she gets along with Damien, but there's some kind of like enmity between her and Aurora for some reason. So during the whole thing with the bird, she also noticed that she had lost her keys to the apartment.
Oh, so that's even more concerning. Like
Yeah.
someone broke in and stuck this bird in my house.
And that was another thing she tried to talk to James about, was where her keys might have went.
Right.
And yeah, James doesn't, he gaslights her about it. And he's like, oh, you probably just forgot them at work or something right before we went on vacation, because you're a woman.
Lovely. He sounds lovely.
Oh, he's great. Favorite character. So yeah, while she's looking for her keys, she starts drinking because, she's very wrought about the entire situation. And James antagonizes her about how much she's drinking.
Instead of helping look for the keys or actually
yeah,
try to calm her down or help in the situation.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's just like, stop overreacting, you crazy lady. Here's another defining thing about their relationship. Later on that evening, James wants sex, and the way the text says it, she goes along with it because that's what it takes to be with James.
Yikes.
He's presented as this very powerful personality,
and she goes along to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It feels icky.
Oh, I feel icky. Oh, no.
So she finds her keys at work the next day.
Well, that's good.
And they're in her desk, just like James said.
So that makes you wonder, did James steal them and stick them in her desk? Oh my God.
But for what reason? Because he was on vacation with her. That would be bizarre.
Right. So you're kind of left wondering, is she crazy or is he crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's taken aback by this whole thing, and she's second guessing herself about everything at this point.
Right.
Because that's what happens when you get gaslit too much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Lily brings home groceries. They have this kind of system. She'll go out and buy a bunch of ingredients, and he'll do a cooking thing where he'll just whip up a dish using those ingredients, whatever she just happens to buy. That's one positive about him, I guess.
He can cook.
He can cook.
The bar is so low.
I'll take what I can from this book. So she goes and gets groceries, and we get a description of James's rich boy apartment. It's very clean and what do you call it?
Is it like a minimalist?
Yeah,
modern?
like a minimalist style.
Okay.
As she enters the apartment, she thinks she can hear something going on inside, and that the door may have been unlocked, but she doesn't think about that until she opens the door. As she enters, she also smells a hard to identify smell. It's explained really vaguely. It makes sense in a way, if you're remembering a thing but you don't get enough to actually trigger what you're thinking of.
Right, it tickles your brain and you're like, what was that? And
it's better described in the book than the way I'm describing it. So another night of her being anxious and starts drinking wine, And James gets controlly about how much she's drinking again. So he knocks a glass out of her hand onto the floor and breaks the glass.
Oh, yikes.
And makes her walk on the pieces.
No. I got a piece of glass stuck in my foot one time, and that was torture. It was torture. And it was the tiniest piece, but it felt huge.
And she's like so keyed in on this guy too. Like she knows that this is like his way of, I guess, regaining like some amount of control in the situation.
Right.
And she could like easily like tiptoe around the glass, but she knows what he wants, and what he wants is for her to step on the glass like for him to satisfy him. And it's it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, I don't think any amount of good cooking makes up for his character flaws.
No. She then describes James caringly taking out the glass, like now that she's done this.
He's punished her, and now he's gonna love bomb and make it better and kiss her boo-boos. God, whoever wrote this really gets like controlling narcissistic partners.
Yeah. Like that was my thought. I was like, yeah, this is how this shit goes.
It really is. Like when I was in a domestic violence situation, that's exactly how that person acted.
Yeah.
It was like I was scared to death. I thought that I had screwed up. And then the next day, no, everything's fine. We're just going back to normal and cooking dinner and doing whatever. God, I don't think I could read this book. I think it would be too triggering.
It is a hard read. I've never been in a domestic violence situation, and it was almost too much for me. Wow. I've actually got the quote from that whole situation. I forgot I had that. Being with James, it's like being on the blade of a very sharp knife. At one time, the idea of his proclivities might have repelled her, but at one time the idea of any man repelled her. Instead, she'd found herself coming alive under his touch, blossoming under his strict hand. She'd heard the expression once, bloom where you're planted. This is where she had been planted, at the intersection of sex and violence and fear. In this moment, she knows she has a choice. She could take a very big step toward him, get her foot over most, if not all, of the broken glass, but that isn't what he wants. He wants to know that she is willing to endure this for him. So she takes a small step forward, the glass grinding into the bottom of her bare foot. The first step isn't too bad. The shards are small and mostly lay flat. And at first, it doesn't feel much worse than walking over gravel or sharp beach sand. She takes her second step, and shards pierce her heels. She wants to wince, but she forces her face to remain neutral. She takes another step, and another. The glass slices into her skin. Blood starts to trickle from her foot. Pain ribbons up her legs. She keeps walking.
Bloom where you're planted is bullshit anyway. Plants just die.
It is.
If you plant them in the wrong spot. And that's on you as the person planting them to put them in the right spot. And it takes all agency away from you as a person when you're told to bloom where you're planted, because you are being equated with a vegetable who has no legs.
Yeah.
And that's not what you are. You're a goddamn woman. Walk out of there.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But,
it is.
she's like, and she is so clearly knowledgeable about what's going on and is choosing to stay.
Yeah, like
and
that
is so hard. I
like
mean, that does happen. That is a choice women can make.
Yeah. Like she's like toxically into this. Like
but she's not like a sub, like choosing to be part of the BDSM sub. Like that's not her choice in the relationship, is it? Or does she want to be that? Does she want to be a sub?
She wants to be with James.
Okay.
And deal, like, just like with the sex earlier, she is willing to deal with it to stay with James.
But she's not into it. It's not her key.
No. It's very much just his thing, and she's just allowing it.
Why did you pick this?
I picked it on a lark and regretted it. Like, I almost didn't do this just because it's very well written.
Right. And it sounds like the author very clearly understands human relationships.
But it's so grueling.
Right.
So,
it is just so bad.
This
Okay.
is a bad book in that way.
Right.
But you know what isn't bad?
What?
These ads.
Nice. Hello, Biblio freaks, geeks, and lovers. Bugs here with a couple of notes. We have a Patreon where every month we focus on a bad book, bad movie combo. Please leave comments and suggestions on our Facebook page or email us at BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. That's spelled BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. We are on all the socials at BiblioWrecks. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you are enjoying these bad books as much as we are. And now we're back from our ads about ourselves. What's up next, Bam Bam?
So he puts her to bed in what she describes as a very paternal way. Like she's like his little doll.
Uh-huh.
And it's, it makes me want to cut off my skin.
So I should not call you daddy.
So it's at this point that it's okay. It's at this point she notices a picture on her nightstand has changed to a different picture. Like before it was a picture of their vacation.
Uh-huh.
And it's changed to like a picture of like a lake. And this like triggers her and it like starts like going over like some of her memories of I can't remember how, like her past life.
Uh-huh. Like before?
Yeah, like I guess her
Right.
teenage years. And she's very triggered by this. And she takes the picture to James and is like, this isn't the fucking picture that I put in this. And someone's changed it. And he's like, no, you probably changed it yourself.
So this is gaslighting the manual.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's so bad because at first she's like, surely I didn't. But every time it goes over it in the text, she's like, I don't think I did. And like just more doubt like creeping in every time she reviews it in her head.
Because human memory is malleable.
Yeah.
That happens in our brains.
Ugh.
Oh my god.
It's done so well and I hate it.
Yeah.
All right. So swap back to the present time in the hole.
Okay.
So she's just following this hole. She takes inventory. She's got a Fitbit, a phone with no signal, because of course.
Right.
Out
in the woods.
Pepper spray, a windbreaker, and a dog leash.
But not the dog?
No, the dog is outside the hole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the dog is like...
So she was chasing after the dog, but the dog didn't fall in the hole.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So right now, King, the dog, is just sitting on the edge of the hole watching her. Yeah, it's very sad. For anyone that's triggered by that kind of thing, the dog doesn't die.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good spoiler this time.
Yeah. I know a lot of people get really anxious about that. I think they've got like an entire website dedicated to that. It's like doesthedogdie.com.
Really?
For like movies and stuff.
I need to show that to my kid because she's always like, do they die?
Yeah. Well, it's got like trigger warnings for dozens of things, not just whether the dog dies.
Gosh, that might be handy for me.
Mm-hmm. So she's in the hole and she's like rationalizing that, you know, the next day is Monday. Surely someone will notice her absence from work. And like, you know, going through all the things that why she shouldn't be freaking the fuck out.
I don't know. It sounds like a freak the fuck out moment to me.
It is. And it gets more that. So later on, she has to pee, but remembers a terrifying time in a closet soaking the floor in piss.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like as a child being locked in a closet?
Nope.
Oh.
As an adult.
Oh, dear.
Being forced into a closet for many, many hours. Then she tries to dig for a little bit and quits because it's hard to dig in dry dirt with your hands.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's why most people have tools when they dig holes.
Yep. And she is certain now that the hole is man-made, but tries her best to reassure herself that someone will save her. So later on, she wakes up the next day after sleeping in the hole. attempts a couple of different escapes and it fails. And then someone outside the hole speaks to the dog, but stays out of view. And she's like shouting, like trying to get the person's attention, and is totally ignored.
Oh my gosh.
And like the voice is like, talking kindly to the dog.
Like, come here.
It's like, you're a good boy.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, the voice ignores her, except to tell her to shut up when she gets too insistent.
So they know that she's in the past.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
And even that, she like tries to rationalize away. Like, I don't know why, but maybe it's something. Maybe it's a weird situation. She's like trying to do so many mental loops as to why not to be freaking the fuck out. Then a bottle of water and a sandwich are thrown down the hole, and the sandwich is from her favorite deli in the city.
So it's someone who knows her.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, she tries to rationalize it again. Be like, there's like 4 of those locations in the city. It could be anybody.
So she spends the entire book gaslighting herself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, ostensibly, she is a victim of abuse.
Oh, yeah. No, I've done the same thing, but it's like sometimes if you can recover from those domestic violence situations, you will, at some point, regain trust in yourself. It took me forever to be able to trust myself that, yes, I closed this door and locked it. No, you're lying to me. I still struggle when my kids are like, I didn't eat that cookie. Oh, maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm crazy. Where's the cookie? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It's just, but the whole book is inside her head. And so it's like her over and over and over, just, struggling with rationalization, but also just not facing like reality. My goodness.
Finally, after rationalizing or attempting to rationalize to herself after a while, she does conclude that she is trapped there, not stuck there.
Like kidnapped, essentially.
Another night in the hole wondering about Sandwich Man. She wonders whether it's James or not.
That's what I was wondering.
But she decides that this is too clean a job for him, because he's a very, minimalist, clean apartment.
Doesn't get his hands dirty with
dirt. Like he's the CEO of an architect firm, not, someone building the house.
Right. Okay.
And she thinks vaguely of what happened 6 months ago.
Doodly-doo.
She despairs and feeds King part of her sandwich.
So is King in the hole with her?
No, he's still outside the hole.
So she threw a piece of sandwich 12 feet in the air at the dog.
Yep.
And the dog didn't go with the voice person.
Nope.
Okay.
He like it's said several times that the dog is very dedicated to her.
Okay.
Like he's
even if it is James, the dog is loyal to her, not to James.
The dog is new. Like she's only had him for like a short time.
Okay.
I think that's how that worked. Like she had recently picked him up from the pound.
Okay.
2 more days pass, and she's starting to lose hope. The man returns to throw more water and sandwiches at her. She asks for water for her dog, but is unsure if she was actually heard. Now, another time jump back to 6 months ago.
Okay.
Lily is afraid someone knows about her past and her changed identity.
Oh.
Lily is about to go to work wearing flats because her feet are fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
But James insists on her wearing heels, because of fucking course he does.
Oh. Hey, can I just say something that everyone's thinking?
Yeah.
Lily and James is the name of Harry Potter's parents.
Yeah, I had that thought too.
And it really bugs me. I'm really annoyed by this name choice.
I'm a little less Harry Potter pilled, so it didn't occur to me until my second reading that those were the names.
Go on.
Then she gets to work, and a former boyfriend or rapist, she's kind of vague about it, from her hometown, recognizes her, and she's like, oh shit, it's Connor. And he keeps calling her Stacy. And now it kind of makes sense as to why she isn't named in the present.
Right.
Because her name's kind of still up in the air, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So he keeps calling her Stacy, and she's just like gets on an elevator and like avoids him. And she goes back to her office. And she's so shook by this that she goes to a meeting, and like part of her job is like to settle up deals with other companies and stuff.
Right.
And she goes through an entire meeting, doesn't listen to anything, and just agrees to everything they ask for.
Oh, no. That could get you fired.
Yeah. This makes Aurora really pissed because she's the actual project manager. So she's the one that's actually got to execute on all the shit that Lily agrees to. And then she talks a little bit about Aurora. And she's like really mean to Aurora in her head. Shocking red hair and dusting of freckles that Lily has to admit are rather charming is trembling with anger. Look, Lily says, it is what it is. And then this is Aurora. It is what it is because you have no backbone, Aurora spits. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, she says.
So they have beef.
Yeah. And she kind of says that last part under her breath, but Lily hears it anyway. And she says, what is that supposed to mean? And this is the main part. Aurora doesn't answer, but folds her arms over her narrow chest. Like, that's just... that's just so spiteful and shitty.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the day while she's at work, she plans to like search for more clues as to who could possibly be going into their apartment. And at the same time, she's also very fearful that James will find out that she's looking for clues because he's like told her to like drop it.
Right.
So she gets home and she like looks throughout the entire apartment except for James's office because she's afraid that he might see that she's like moved something or been in there or anything.
Does she live with him?
Yeah.
They live in the same apartment?
Mm-hmm.
But it's his apartment?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like she had moved in with him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I can just remember the walking on eggshells and being terrified, and this is just taking me back.
this is very much that, and I'm very sorry for doing that.
Oh my God.
As she's looking through their room, she remarks on some familiarity with James's closet.
Is that the one that she peed in?
You don't know.
Sorry.
James comes home drunk and amorous. Lily mentions that it's an awful big coincidence that she lost her keys and someone changed the photo and the bird got into the apartment on the same weekend they were gone. James is mad that she brought it up at all and continues to gaslight her, mentioning that it must just be wedding stress, and asks about her allegedly dead parents. She thinks about all the lies that she's told to James and about the blood on her hands.
Dun, dun, dun.
So she attempts to like let go and just drop it like James said and forget the entire situation. She has more work trouble with Aurora, like Aurora's still pissed off at her. And the guy that recognized her, his name was Connor. I can't remember if I mentioned it. She's worried about him like finding her, and he's like going to the front desk clerk, like asking for her, and like he doesn't say Stacy, he just describes the woman,
Right.
or describes Lily, and yeah, it's just very stalkery right off.
Yeah.
So she goes to pick up more groceries, and she's feeling like followed the entire time, you know, kind of like at the beginning of the book.
Paranoid, scared, looking over her shoulder.
Yeah. So she gets back to the apartment, and she's like so keyed up. She hears somebody like walking up behind her, and she like pulls her pepper spray. Pepper sprays James in the face. And she's like immediately like mortified. She offers to take him to the ER, but he refuses and is like in the bathroom for like an hour just trying to wash out his eyes, I guess. And she's just like in a frantic state.
Oh my God.
But he refuses to go to the ER and specifically says that she didn't want him or anyone calling the police. So now she's worried that he knows something about her past.
And is hinting at her.
Yeah. Like, she hasn't told him any of this stuff, but he's kind of
Right.
given a little hint that he knows something.
And it could be he's just being an ass and
Mm-hmm.
pushing, because people like that will push every button until they
Yeah.
see what you react to.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll act like, oh, I know what you were doing, and you could have been going and buying groceries, but they will. So, he saw me buy the expensive wine. He saw me buy cigarettes. Oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
gonna die.
So it could be like nothing to do with what she's thinking about.
Right.
So at this point, James kind of like orders her to take some Xanax that he gives her. He like personally prescribes her some Xanax to chill her out.
Don't drink too much. Here, take these prescription drugs.
Well, that's different because he's telling
He's
her.
controlling it.
Yeah.
He's controlling the quantity and the timing. This is really triggering my I have to go in and save them personality trait that has become toxic over the years.
So Lily shows up to work on Xanax the next day, and this is when Connor asks to see Lily, but her assistant sends him off. Lily is worried about the warrant for Stacy Kincaid, her former identity.
Oh, so now we find out there was a warrant for her previous persona.
Yep.
Wow.
And she's afraid that Connor is like trying to blackmail her or turn her in or something.
Right.
Yeah. Because she's from her hometown, because this takes place in Seattle, but she's originally from North Carolina.
So she fled across the country.
Yeah.
So Connor's from her hometown, but he's in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And he found her.
Yep. Just like I don't think like he was looking for her. He just happened
to be in a humongous city full of people.
Yep.
Wow.
So she flashes back to her childhood and the sexual assault from her father and the art teacher that gave her a new identity and sent her to Seattle and how that whole thing went. Yep.
So now we see where the relationship with James is familiar and comforting and also terrifying.
Yeah, like it kind of gives you the vibe like she feels comfortable treading these dangerous waters is kind of the impression you get.
Yeah.
Like she's like trying to be strong in these awful situations. So after that entire thing, day of work, she goes back home and cleans the apartment and finds a feather under their bed.
A crow feather?
Mm-hmm. And she's certain it wasn't there before because she had already cleaned the house right after the bird had died.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So now there's more. Who's getting into my house and who's moving things around? Oh.
So this causes Lily to buy cameras to put in the apartment.
I mean, that is sensible.
Yep, it is sensible. But she also has to keep it a secret from James.
Nanny cams.
Because if James finds out, he will make her walk on more glass.
Right.
But she decides that more proof is the only thing that will convince James. So she's going to wait until she actually gets like real physical evidence that someone is entering the apartment before engaging with him again.
Because if they had taken her key and it was gone over a weekend, they could have made a copy and come in, and now they can just get in whenever they want.
Yep.
Lovely.
Yeah, so after she buys the camera, she like rushes in the apartment thinking that she hears somebody inside, and she like rushes in the apartment and scares the shit out of the cleaning lady.
So she cleans the apartment and they have a cleaning lady. Is James like obsessed with like perfectionism and cleanliness and stuff?
Yeah, it never says specifically, but it kind of gives that vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. She actually scares this poor cleaning woman like twice in a row. Like she does it again, like in the very next page. She like just kind of walks up and is like standing behind this cleaning lady, and she's like remarking about what an interesting lady she is when she's not like terrified talking to her employers. And that's a weird vibe.
She sounds very unstable in herself. Like, not to be victim blaming or anything, but she does sound a bit neurotic. And those people, that type of person, it's a lot easier to be taken advantage of. Other people will latch onto that energy and feed the beast.
That neuroses actually keeps going.
Right.
Because she gets very obsessive about the cameras that she sets up.
Yeah.
Because she's like got an app on her phone, and she's like getting some kind of relief just from like watching the cameras and seeing that there is nobody in the apartment at that moment. Yeah, this is a quick quote just about how fucking scared she is of James. She can't help but look over her shoulder. She still has a sense of being followed, but she tries to tell herself she's just being on edge as a result of the errands this morning. James won't like it, and the thought of pissing him off makes her almost unbearably nervous, but her paranoia is stronger. She's more afraid of a stranger breaking into her home than she is of James.
Yeah, she's more afraid of the monster she doesn't know than the monster she does know.
Right. But that is a bonkers ass statement to say about someone you're in a relationship with.
I mean, sometimes you stay in those relationships because you do have control.
Right.
Because you can control that kind of man by being subservient, by kowtowing, by acting the way they want.
The correct way.
Yeah. Versus a completely unknown, you have no control over that at all. And that's what the cameras are like showing. Like a need to control, a need to know, micromanaging, and like the obsessive cleaning.
Yeah.
So she desperately wants a sense of control. And that can be easier to find with someone who's abusive than with, I mean, that's why a lot of people struggle with leaving, because it is unknown. Being on your own, moving out, finding a new apartment.
Yeah.
Those things are really scary because you haven't done them before, or they're unknown, they're new, and that can be really hard.
Yeah.
But golly, this author is killing me. You're killing me, Smalls.
But yeah. Throughout this entire thing, Connor sends her an email wishing to reconnect, and Lily thinks this is like a veiled threat. This puts Lily off kilter, and she ends up attacking the outdoor porch sofa, thinking like, because it's got like a cover on it, and she's like panicking, like thinking someone is hiding under that cover, and like James catches her, and she's just like, I don't even have a defense for that. I was acting crazy as fuck.
Oh, no. So that gives him more weaponization.
Yeah, and it gives her more self-doubt because she's actually acting crazy now.
Yeah. Yikes.
But you know what won't gaslight you and feed you Xanax?
Me?
No.
Oh, sorry.
These ads.
Your face.
Hello, fellow BiblioFreaks. Bam here. I just wanted to mention our Patreon bonus materials. At $1, you are buying us a cup of coffee and the warm feeling of supporting our creativity. At $5, you get the bonus Bad Book, Bad Movie episode, as well as early ad-free release of all our episodes. The $10 tier gives you the bonus episode, ad-free episodes, as well as show notes, and a chance to hang out with us on Twitch every month. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to the bad book.
Welcome back to BiblioWrecks, where we wreck your heart. So, Bam Bam, what's next?
Well, it doesn't get better. So we switch back to the present time in the hole. In my notes, I've just got it written as present hole.
Oh.
So in the hole, she starts going over memories and a horrible day of pain, rage, and a fall.
And this is a flashback to a different time while she's in the hole, or
it's more just a reference, like a momentary, like that's what she thinks. Like she's thinking of a horrible day of pain, rage, and a fall.
Right.
And she's gotten to the point that she's so lonely that she is starting to like crave the presence of the Sandwich Man.
Yeah.
Even though he's pretty clearly her captor.
Yeah.
And that's when she hears King lapping water. So the Sandwich Man has brought a bowl of water for King at her request. And he finally shows himself wearing a ski mask at the side of the hole. And he says, I want you to think about what you've done. And he like teases the water. And yeah,
so we still don't know if this is James or someone else.
Yeah, you still don't know. But she's sure she knows who it is. And the context of the story leads one to think it's James. Like, that's the very obvious answer. And if you've read a lot of these, most of the time you get that feeling. You kind of start expecting the subversion.
You're expecting the twist.
Yeah.
Right. And it's such a good author
Mm-hmm.
that you think, oh, well, they wouldn't do something so obvious.
Yeah.
They've done so well this far.
Right. But she's definitely certain that something, regardless of who it is, something horrible is going to happen to her. So she tries digging again, and she actually follows through this time. And that's my only complaint with this book, is that she waits for over 10 days, starves for the last 3 days before she tries digging her way out again.
Is she trying to use, like, the water bottle?
Well, what she does is she takes the dog leash and, like, uses, like, the snap for the collar to, like, dig into the ground, and she's kind of, like, piling up the dirt under her feet.
Right.
So at the same time of, like, trying to kind of create, like, a slope or somewhere for her to grab onto.
To try to climb out.
Yeah. So that's what she's doing. And it took her 10 days to figure that out. And I think the reason for...
Honestly, though, yeah, I think that's on purpose from the author to show her mindset.
Right. Yeah, even that I would still give a pass just because of how the author has made this person psychologically.
Right.
It just befuddles me personally.
Because you as a man would be like, I'm digging out of this hole.
Yeah,
right
I would
now.
punch my way out of the hole.
I will have no fingernails, no toenails left by the time I get out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she makes progress digging, and she finally manages to get out of the hole, and she, like, has, like, a nice moment with the dog. She's, like, so happy to be out and be able to get her dog away, because, like, the entire time she's been in the hole, she's, like, agonized over what the fate of the dog is going to end up being.
Yeah.
Like, very worried. And she goes to leave, and that's when the man in the ski mask finds her again. And he's like, where are you going? And he, like, grabs her. So then they're fighting. King joins in, attacking the man. And she, like, runs, and she, like, gets a good way off. But he catches her and throws her back in the hole. Kicks the shit out of the dog.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't die, but the story doesn't tell you that.
So you're left hanging.
Yeah, you're left hanging. And the character is also worried. Like, after this scene, like, the beating was apparently bad enough that she just assumed the dog died.
Yeah.
And she's actually kind of relieved because she doesn't have to worry about what's going to happen to the dog.
Yeah.
So, but during the struggle, his mask gets pulled off.
She sees who it is.
She sees who it is, and it's James.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I get to that point, and I was like, that's disappointing.
I mean, who else would be so invested in her life?
Right.
Now?
But later, you'll find out that actually is a twist and a reveal.
Oh.
But we'll get there.
It was her murdered parents' best friend who chased her death.
It was Big Empty, actually.
Oh, no. Not to go to Melbourne.
Or Black Empty.
Black Empty. It was Black Empty.
There's a thing in the Fallout games. I think it's New Vegas, but there's an area in the game called the Big Empty. So I've done it, like, several times, like, during the other episode. I've called Black Empty Big Empty.
And I probably didn't even notice.
Yeah. But anyway, back to 6 months ago.
So wait, Lily is in the hole after being thrown in by James.
Mm-hmm.
The dog is presumed dead up above her on the lip of the thing. Mm-hmm. And so now she's laying in the bottom of the hole, flashing back to 6 months ago.
Well, the story does anyway. She doesn't personally.
But that's where we're leaving her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she, at this point, she's set up the cameras, and every opportunity she's watching these cameras, like, almost like on an IV drip. Like, this is the thing that's making her de-stress.
So almost like an OCD thing, where that's the thing that makes you feel better.
Yeah,
that
like,
relieves that anxiety.
Yeah,
very briefly.
Like, it gets to the point, like, she's watching the cameras while she's in the apartment.
Right.
James almost catches her. Like, he sees she's doing something fucky with her phone, and he demands that she give it to him. And she quickly deletes the app for the cameras, like, conspicuously. Like, he knows she did something.
Right.
And then she gives him the phone, and,
Gets away with it that time.
Yeah, but, this just creates like a very auspicious gulf between them and their relationship. Like just this big elephant in the room that can't be brought up.
Because he knows she's hiding something.
Right. And she feels like she can't tell him.
Because then she'd be in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the next day she like fights the urge to like download the app and start watching the cameras from her office again. Because it's like interfering with her work. But she finally gives in. And over the course of time, because there's another weird thing. She doesn't have a car, and James drives her to work every morning.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Because doesn't Seattle have like public transit and easy ways to get to and from?
But he also doesn't pick her up from work. She walks home or takes the bus or something.
So
but
he just makes sure she's at work.
Yeah.
And he drops her off at work.
Yeah. That's a weird thing. In the interim of her having deleted the app, the cameras caught footage of James in the apartment after they had already left to go to work.
So he returned home.
Yeah. There's like no reason she can think of that he would have went back home instead of staying at work because he's kind of a workaholic.
So she's seen evidence that he returned home and she doesn't know why.
Yeah. That evening, she like tries to find like a subtle way to bring it up. She's like, yeah, I called you, but your assistant said you were out at the moment, like trying to be subtle about it. And he was like, yeah, took an early lunch because it was like 11 o'clock is when it was time stamped on the camera. He was like, yeah, took an early lunch, weren't in the office.
So he has excuses.
Mm-hmm. But he's very clearly lying about where he was at that time.
Right.
And being secretive about it.
She knows he's lying. He knows she knows he's lying. He knows she knows he knows she knows he's lying.
So yeah, it's very cerebral, like trying to keep track of everyone's motivations and what everyone knows.
Right.
So she flashes back again to her past sexual assault from her father, because this goes on for like years. Like she describes like being a kid in her 90 and this happening to her.
Right.
And she is a teenager graduating high school, and she has decided that she's going to go to college for art. And she tells her dad this. He like freaks out. He's like, no, your place is here. And he like starts throwing away like all her stuff, like all her art stuff. And so she grabs a lamp and hits him in the head and he falls.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then she keeps hitting him with the lamp and he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense for why feeling like someone's in her house is so triggering for her.
Yeah.
Because when you're unsafe and you're on bed and you're on home, home becomes the threat.
Yeah.
And to have moved into this place with James and feeling a sense of security at the beginning of the story, and then to have that violated as we walk into the story with her, that is really well done.
Yeah, it is devious.
I hate it. But it is really well done.
Yeah, then it talks about the art teacher, like, helping her out and getting her moved to Seattle and what a transition that was and why it seemed like such a blessing to meet James.
Because he rescued her. He was the next stop.
Yeah, because she was, like, working at, like, I think she was working at at a cafe when they met. And she, like, spilled coffee on him, like, all over his new dry cleaning or something like that.
Right.
Some crud like that. So it goes back to current time 6 months ago. Like, comes out of the flashback, but it's still 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's the part that I am having, like, following along is being current time in the hole, and then 6 months ago, and then that 6 months ago, it has a flashback.
Yeah.
But you're doing pretty good. Like,
I'm trying to keep everything straight.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason for trying to keep it straight.
Built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James forces more Xanax on her. She goes to work high, and she's getting ready for a meeting when Connor catches her.
Oh, no.
And he tries to talk to her like he's kind of like trying to apologize and like be friendly, but she's like just so keyed up and anxious. She just like knees him in the balls and runs away, which, right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't owe him.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. She meets Damien in the hall only to find out that she's already missed the meeting.
Oh, no.
And like the alarm on her phone was for the time that she got there, but the meeting was an hour earlier.
So either it got put in wrong or something got changed and you don't know how that happened.
Yeah, she immediately like starts at the same time like coming up with like crazy theories like someone else did this, but also gaslighting herself. Like, no, that would be crazy.
Yeah. And being high on Xanax makes...
Yeah, everything's muddy anyway.
Right. And then having to keep up with and remember times and alarms and getting confused with Connor would make it all just a jumbled mess anyway.
But yeah, in her place, Aurora kind of had to take the lead on the project. And Aurora's like kind of gloating a little bit over Lily.
Yeah.
And Lily starts to suspect that maybe Aurora did it. But then she thinks back to the night before when she deleted the app and had to hand her phone off to James. And thinks maybe while he had the phone, he might have done it just to screw with her. Yeah. So Lily decides to buy more cameras and tries to be normal. She remembers how her and James met at the coffee shop. Later on, he even admitted to contriving the situation to like meet her, which she thinks now should have like set off like some red flags. And at this point at work, she isn't even like trying to make it look like she's working. She's just constantly monitoring these cameras so blatantly that both Damien and like Aurora like tries to bring like a peace offering of donuts, and Damien, instead of firing her because she thinks that he should fire her, Lily does, and he's just like, no, take some leave and just come back. Yeah,
figure this out.
You know, trying to be good about the whole thing.
Yeah.
She says to him she wishes that he had fired her in like a moment of like self-destructive honesty.
Yeah, because that would be easier than having to actually go home, figure this out, pull yourself together, get back into work in a couple of days. Yep. Yeah, and then facing people who've seen you being neurotic, being, at a bad point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like kind of spiraling at this point, or depressive spiraling. And she's like wondering what's she going to do? How's she going to tell James about this? And she just comes back to the apartment. And that's when she hears a thud in the living room as she gets to the door. So she like just goes in the apartment and looks around, and she can't figure out what it possibly could have been. And she decides to check the cameras and reverses the feed a little bit to, when she would have heard the sound. And she sees a person actually going across the camera's field of view. And it's a person that is still in the apartment. So she grabs a kitchen knife and hunts through the apartment like a crazed person. Which, not irrational, but...
I know, but the better thing would be to call the cops, but then she would be scared James would find out about the cameras, because that would be the only way to know.
Yeah, but she's like a frothing mad person at this point. And finally, she looks out on the patio balcony, where she freaked out on the sofa before. And like in the corner next to the sofa is like a little huddled figure.
Under something, or she can see a person?
She's like behind a plant.
Oh.
And she taps the figure. And then we cut back to present.
No! Damn, why are you doing this to me?
Because the book did it to me.
No.
Don't worry, it'll be revealed pretty quickly.
But I'll have forgotten everywhere, and then I'll lose the suspense, and I hate it when they do that to me. Oh my gosh.
Don't worry, it'll come back. Okay. So present in the present hole. Her shoulder is broken, and she's lamenting her failure, and she's lamenting the death of King. She tries digging out again, but she's too injured. I mean, she's got a broken shoulder. She can't dig or like pull herself out again.
Climb out with a broken shoulder like that.
And she like starts to spiral and thinks that she deserves to die at this point, and just kind of stuck there in that feeling for a little while. So then James returns. He throws down some water, and he asks her to tell him the truth, like blaming her for something.
Okay.
Like the downfall of their relationship. You don't know.
Okay.
She thinks she knows what James wants and that she can use it now. And he like leaves for a little while and comes back the next night. And he returns and teases a bottle of water for the truth. He's like, if you tell me the truth, I'll give you some water. So she tries to make a deal, like wagering her life, if only to get out of the hole and be able to bury her dog. Then she'll tell him. James lets her out. And while she's getting out of the hole, she's like remembering all the abuse that he's done to her. And then he asks her to tell him how Lily died.
How Lily died. So this isn't Lily.
This is not Lily. The person that's been in the hole the whole time, not Lily. And cut back to on the patio 6 months before, Lily encounters Aurora from work.
Behind the little thing on
Behind,
the patio.
Yep.
Has it been Aurora who's been doing all this stuff then?
Some of it.
I hate you. I'm tired. I just want to go take a nap now.
We're almost done.
Oh, okay. Wait. So, King is Aurora's dog.
Mm-hmm.
And James captured Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
So Aurora has been flashing back. No, we've been inside Aurora's head thinking about 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
but the flashbacks to 6 months ago were from Lily's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So you're meant to think the whole time that it was Lily.
Yeah. Like every time it's in the present.
This is that twist you were teasing me
Yeah.
about. That you've been
It's a
grinning at me
really good
maliciously
twist.
for weeks. And you were like, I can't wait to do this, and there's a twist.
I've been considering how to try to pull that twist off, like similarly to kind of how the story does. And I'm so glad it's worked out.
You got me, man, and I guess this book got you too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, and it does it like really good. Like the reference to the bird.
Uh-huh.
Like they both, Aurora hates birds for like a specific reason, but Lily hates birds for a vague reason. Like it never goes into it why Lily hates birds, but they both hate birds.
Okay.
And there's also at one point like a reference, they both separately reference the show Friends.
Okay.
Which you think tracks, but also at the same time, everybody liked Friends.
I never watched it.
Well, if you had watched it, you would have.
Okay.
Like everybody else back then, you would have liked it, I'm sure.
I guess so.
Yeah, maybe.
I've seen the memes.
Yeah.
I know it through memes.
Mm-hmm. So.
Huh. Okay, so there's enough similarities between them just as people that she's able to piece together this personality and it sounds similar enough.
Yeah. Like they generally are kind of just similar people, but also like they've also both got like a backdrop of abuse. Like Lily was abused by her dad and Aurora was abused by James, which we're about to go into.
Wait, I thought Lily was in the relationship with James.
Yep. We're now going to flash back to from the present 3 or 4 years before.
Okay.
And this is Aurora remembering the meeting with James at the coffee shop, like having a separate meeting from Lily's. And apparently what happens is every time James sees somebody that he wants to get together with at a coffee shop, he just contrives like bringing some dry cleaning and forcing like a spill. And he did that both times.
To make them feel bad.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll pay for your dry cleaning.
Yeah.
Or can I have your number? I'll make it up to you.
And he like does the same play with both of them. Honestly, just reading this big paragraph of text is easier than trying to vaguely explain what's going on. Something she herself can't quite grasp because of her station in life. The same way she can't taste the difference between a $200 bottle of wine and a jug of plunk from Trader Joe's. I don't know what that means because I've never shopped at Trader Joe's, but...
I mean, their wine's okay, but it is like, it's generally cheap wine.
Mm-hmm. She can let James cultivate her sexual palate the same way he's honing her taste for fine foods and wines. She's 22 years old, ready to have her eyes open to the world. But on that particular night, things take a turn. As he strips off her clothes, she throws her head back, delighting in his ministrations. When his teeth drag against her nipple, she leans into it. A searing pain erupts. She screams. She throws her head forward so fast her teeth snap. She looks down. Blood pools around her nipple. Jesus Christ, she cries. She tries to pull away, to go to the bathroom, to get a cold, wet face cloth, but James grabs her by the wrist. Where do you think you're going? Her mouth opens and closes a couple of times like a fish. You hurt me. There is surprise in her voice. Did I? He says. She gingerly touches the nipple, inspecting it. I think I need stitches. She stares at him in disbelief, waiting for him to freak out and to apologize, to fall over himself, taking care of her. Instead, he arches his eyebrows. If it bothers you so much, you can leave.
Oh my God.
He says it plainly, but I wasn't under the impression that you were such a child.
So he's into the violence part of BDSM and not the consent part.
Yep. And she goes into that later because she goes to therapy after this. And she discusses with her therapist what an actual healthy BDSM relationship is.
Right.
And there's like there's an argument to be made that the person in the sub position is the power holder.
Right, because everything has to be with their consent.
Right.
And if they say no, that means no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So her choice is stay with this guy that she really likes and endure violence and abuse, or just be kicked out. He doesn't have any nuance. He doesn't. It's his way or the highway.
Yep.
Wow.
And this is her making that choice. He sits down on the edge of the bed waiting. She looks back to the living room, to the door of the apartment. She could leave right now, she thinks, and chalk this up to another failed relationship that wasn't meant to be. Or she can grow the fuck up, meet James where he is, and let him take her to places she's never been. And she crosses the room and stands between his thighs. So she's like decided to play along with James, but she increasingly like just flinches every time she gets anywhere near the bedroom.
Because she's expecting pain and violence.
So this leads James to become increasingly distant, and eventually he cheats on her because she has started sleeping in the guest room, and he like very conspicuously cheats on her, like brings a girl home from the bar while she's at home and sleeps with this other lady.
Because she's not being the good little subservient person he wants, and she doesn't want to endure pain. And that's part of like, if you're a sub, you have to be into it. You have to enjoy that kind of activity, because otherwise it's not really BDSM, it's just abuse. Wow. Yeah.
So she couldn't take it anymore, and James dumps her and kicks her out, and buys her or pays for a new apartment for her for like 2 months or something like that, which that's just wild. Like cheating on a girl, dumping her, and then paying for her apartment for a new apartment for 2 months just to get her out of your hair.
It's still about control.
Yeah, it is, but it's so weird. The rich really do live differently.
And are able to control differently.
Yep. So she goes to therapy and realizes what an abusive dick he was. Yeah. Back to the present.
Does she throw him in the hole? Does she throw him in the hole? Please throw him in the hole. Bury him.
We'll get to that. So Aurora relates to James that it was all an accident, because she says what happened is Lily was coming at her with the kitchen knife.
Right, because Lily was terrified and foaming at the mouth with anxiety and stress.
And she said the only reason she was at the apartment was because she was worried about Lily, because Lily had been acting crazy.
Yeah.
And
had the key? Does Aurora have the key to the apartment?
Well, she had the key to the apartment when she was still with James.
Oh, and it's the same apartment.
Yeah. So she had a way in.
Right.
And apparently James is just so arrogant that he never changed the locks.
Oh, bad decision.
But yeah, Lily was like coming at her with a knife, and the only way she could like defend her was to like push her off the balcony.
So Lily's worst fears came true.
Yep.
Someone was in the apartment and they killed her.
Mhm.
Poor Lily.
Yeah.
I mean, neuroses and psychotic moments aside, I mean,
Mhm.
that really is like, it's like, oh, the paranoia is not real unless they actually out to get you,
Mhm.
you know? And it's like, they really were, in their own ways, out to
Mhm.
get her.
Yep.
And there's a way to express concern for someone that's not breaking into their apartment.
Yeah. Well, that was actually just a lie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But even so, that is the dumbest lie.
Mhm. Well, in the moment, it seems believable to James because he can't imagine somebody being smarter than him in a situation. Yeah. So she's, in a way, kind of playing to his vanity.
Right.
Yeah. So he goes to, like, kill her by, like, choking her to death. Like, he specifically says he wants to kill her with his bare hands.
And that's where that abuse eventually leads.
Yep.
A lot of
Usually, yep.
times.
But she manages to grab the pepper spray that she had and sprays James, and during further struggle, he falls in the hole.
Yeah. Finally.
So she flees, managing to get back to her car, but she doesn't have the keys because the keys are in the hole.
Ugh.
And she's like starved and injured, and she just passes out laying against the car, convinced that she's gonna die.
Yeah.
On the side of the road where her car's parked.
I mean, because how many days is this in?
I think at this point it's been like 11 or 12.
Okay, so almost 2 weeks.
Yeah. With infrequent
and
sandwich
food.
feedings.
Yeah.
She wakes up in the hospital with her mother and her sister around. She finds out the king is still alive from one of her coworkers that's been taking care of him.
Well, that's good.
So a few months later, James's body is found by a hunter who like stalks a deer, and like the deer falls in the hole.
Oh.
And like while it's in there like freaking out, it like tears up his corpse.
What is it? Very descriptive?
Not really.
Okay.
Like, it just says that it messes the body up, which kind of gives you like a moment of relief too, because it like seems like it clutters up the crime scene enough
that they won't know what happened.
Yeah, that they won't be able to connect it back to Aurora at all.
And that's what Aurora is hoping for.
Mm-hmm. Well, she doesn't know about it just yet.
Okay.
But the detectives find an audio message on James's phone, and James left an audio message to identify Aurora as both his murderer and Lily's murderer.
Oh, wow.
So the police come by Aurora's apartment a few weeks after her recovery. And also, this is where I identified a possible incorrect use of ironically instead of coincidentally.
Okay.
And that was my only other gripe with the book. The drive to the station brings her ironically past James's apartment, or maybe it's intentional, she thinks. That's the quote. And like,
right.
Is that ironic or is it coincidental in that context?
It kind of just depends on what you're trying to say as the author, because either one could be used correctly, I think. But I think the way you're reading it, coincidental would make more sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But it's kind of like, oh, isn't it ironic? They're reminding me of his house. Like, it could be just bringing it up like salt to the wound kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, ironically doesn't not work, but which saying it coincidentally happens just makes it feel like a little too unintentional. So I don't know. Maybe it works better there. I'm not sure. So while she's in the cop car, she admits to herself in the car that she purposely drove Lily insane and pushed her off the balcony to avenge herself on James, and doesn't regret it.
Oh.
Because she feels like James got together with Lily in the exact same way they got together intentionally at Aurora.
Right.
So she felt like he was like trying to send her a message through that situation.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And we're never inside James's head to
Nope.
see any of his thoughts either.
Nope, he is an enigma.
Right.
But also, I don't think it ever, throughout both my ratings of the book, I don't think we ever find out how the bird got in there. Yeah, I don't think it ever brings it up at all.
Because Aurora dislikes birds, so she wouldn't have brought one in. She wouldn't have
Right.
been able to catch one and make that happen.
Yeah, but it never says, it never explains how the bird got into the apartment initially. Okay. So that's just a... Did
they have a chimney?
Nope.
Because in my mind, that's what I would got in the chimney and got in through the fireplace or something. But
So yeah, that was a thread that never got properly pulled.
Yeah, I could see, because my house, birds, animals, you find random stuff because old farmhouse.
Yeah.
But if you're in a very modern, minimalist, fancy apartment in Seattle, that would be a very unusual thing to happen and not have it be explained.
Yeah, she also remarks how easy it was to send Lily over the edge, but she also doesn't properly credit James with keeping her on edge the entire time.
Right.
As far as driving her crazy.
God.
Not literally pushing her over the edge.
Right. So, do we get an explanation of everything Aurora actually did, in the apartment and stuff?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, she's the one who stole Lily's keys.
Okay.
And, well, I guess, that she would have been the one to let the bird in somehow and just didn't notice it and never mentioned it.
Here, birdie, birdie, I got a peanut. Come here, birdie, birdie. It's funny, too, because I was thinking a crow would live a long time in my house, from the crumbs on the floor to the bread on the counter. But if you have a minimalist house with no kids and probably all the food is actually in the fridge or in a cabinet, a crow would probably die pretty fast.
Yeah. She did also change the schedule on Lily's phone.
Oh, so okay. So nothing really that major, but combine it with James ignoring
it was more just
happening.
Yeah, it was more just pushing an already overtaxed person.
Right. Wow.
So this is really more... this is still James's fault, but Aurora didn't help anything either. She was malicious, but it would have never gotten to that point if it weren't for James.
Right, because if a person who isn't neurotic, isn't struggling with those things, they misplace their keys. Oh, I misplaced my keys. Oh, I found them. It's fine. Oh, a crow got in? I don't know how that happened. Yuck. Sure, set up some cameras.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be enough to send you that, overwhelm your system that much.
Yeah.
So... But James knows how to pick them, I guess.
Well, those guys do know how to pick that kind of victimology, I guess.
So this was a revenge plot. This was a revenge story.
Yep. And, it's kind of satisfying. I'm sad that she was kind of this morally gray person, but at the same time, I'm glad she got, James got what he deserved.
So... Is the story ended on her riding to the police station?
Yeah, it ends with her in the cop car musing to herself.
So we don't see, there's no trial or anything like that. No. But we know she's caught. She knows she's caught.
Yeah, she kind of accepts it at the end.
Yeah. Wow. That was a ride.
It was really good. I really considered not doing it because I wasn't sure if I could do it any amount of justice, just how well it was done.
Gracious me.
Ah,
Aurora, that narrow-chested bitch.
I think that's appropriate to say at this point. Maybe that's why she was so insecure. Who knows?
My goodness.
It was a lot.
So, Was the Connor thing ever fully explained? Or he just happened to meet Lily and see her, and that was just a distraction? That was just red herring.
That was just something to set off Lily.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you already had someone who was very vulnerable and in an abusive situation.
Yep.
And then you have a malicious coworker who wants to get back at her ex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Aurora toots her own horn just a little too hard, because really the stuff that she was doing really didn't do all that much. It's just everything else that was major. Like, most of it was James, and she was afraid about Connor revealing her past. That was the main real factors, I think.
Wait, so is Connor in Aurora's past or in Lily's past?
That was Lily's past.
Lily's past.
Yep. Yeah, Lily got sexually assaulted by her dad.
In North Carolina, and then ran away to Seattle.
Yep.
But Aurora always lived in Seattle, or we don't really know?
I think so, because in the hospital, I think her support network is her
family is there.
Yeah, okay. It's like nearby enough to...
Right. Yeah. Bam Bam?
Yes.
What would you rate this rec? Give us a grade.
On a grammatical and writing level, I give it an A, but on how it hurt my feelings, I give it a D, because my feelings were very, very wrought and torn at the end of this book.
This reminds me of when I was in college. We had I was in a writing class, and we had to read several The New Yorker short stories. And those were the same. They were well written, and they made me want to die.
Yep.
Like, the one was this old man who was a hoarder, and he took in a pet rat, and he fed it, and then it became hundreds of rats, and they ate him.
Oh, God.
And that was the story.
Yeah.
And it was like, does my teacher just want me to kill myself? Like, why did you put me through this? But it was like to help you learn, like, this evokes this emotion, and that's what this writing does.
Yeah.
And this is how you evoke these emotions and do these things, and this is technically well done, but it made you feel bad. And like, but I really felt like they just chose so many gut-wrenching, awful stories that semester. I was like, I can't deal with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like this author is very good at that, being able to evoke a feeling in a reader. So I give my golf clap to this author. You did very well. 4 out of 5 bands.
Nice. Well, that was a ride. But I can't wait. Up ahead, we have A Planet Called Treason by Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm very excited about that. Just rag on stuff, but also have some really fun, interesting talks in there, too.
I enjoy this. And we hope you enjoyed it too.
Why don't you give us an email at BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. We are at BiblioWrecks on all of the socials. Thank you, Jay, for being our producer and silently laughing and clapping when we are trying to make a joke. Thank you, listeners, for being here, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Biblio Freaks, Geeks, and Lovers, for joining us today. Send your Biblio recommendations to BiblioWrecks@gmail.com. We're also at BiblioWrecks on Patreon and all the socials. Thank you for all the bad books and good laughs. Goodbye.